We got this giant place. What I did is I poured all the money back into the place. I got this giant place. I got another place down the road that's a couple times bigger than this. A whole nother school with a dormitory and all that stuff in there that we could put in there. Dormitory space. And so here we got this big framework. We're just missing people. That's the problem. We're just missing heads. And you know, it's crazy. I get people and they say to me, "Where have you been?" You know, and the FDA came in and they said, "Geez, this is a secret operation." I said, "My God, it's a secret operation." Clandestine, he called it. I said, "Well, that's no good for us, you know, clandestine operation." But anyway, we're going to tomorrow. We're going to talk about, like, we really need people. I don't want to go into it today, but what it's going to be about is I'm going to give you some real good guidelines, and I'm willing to share all the dough with you. I mean, it's not like you know, you give me all the dough and you guys sit out there and do nothing. But we have a $1 million scholarship program. We're giving away 50 scholarships at $20,000. We have the curriculum printed up. We want the best people in here.
And these books out?
Yeah, we got these real nifty books for you. You've probably seen this already. It's got a lot of different stuff in it. We packed it full of stuff. And here's the thing. Here's one of my flyers, my new flyers. People need immediately for monitor positions around the country. Earning potential $20,000 to $100,000 yearly. Trained now to earn a respectable position running computer programs on nutrition in doctors' offices. Be one of the first to specialize in a job of the future, dealing with a full spectrum of human health and well-being. You know, hot little flyers will just saturation bomb the country. We have we've got some good people on the course. Betty Lee Morales is taking the course. She likes the stuff. She's gave us a write-up in Let's Live, and we have some real good people that are interested, but we have to get the action going, like where people start coming on board, because the more that come on, it's just going to take you and push you all the way to the top, just like the pyramid thing. I mean, I don't want to get into that. I know we're all pyramid oriented, you know. I have a pyramid in my backyard. I grow them, you know. But anyway, anybody have any questions? We want to get right on to, I want to start talking about the blood thing. No? Yes, a question. I've waited.
The blood program that we've had, does it tie in with this, Joe?
No, this is a microscope. This is like a hematology view. It goes into more like a erythrocyte aggregation, you know, to look right at the blood and examine it. It's a real good showpiece that people, like lay people, love it because it's about a 400 magnification, and you can see the little cells floating around. And what we did was contracted with an optics manufacturer who put on a special 3D apparatus. There's a lot of these around. I mean, there are a lot of people have, it's called a live cell or dead cell. They got some of those. They've got half alive and half dead. They've got comatose cell. You know, they've got a whole thing where you can, you know, everybody's buying. I think one's called BioVision. They got another guy in Jersey. There's American Biologics. There's Jim Privatera. He's got one. There's a guy in Mexico who's got one, and probably about 20 or 30 other ones. It's not anything really unique other than, the only unique part we have is the 3D part, okay, which is kind of unique. There's no doubt about it. The other thing that we've got is that we have SAF interface. We have Saphionic interface on it, which yeah, it makes a whole nother dimension. So we took, like, Ed's blood, for instance, yesterday. Do you have the computer? Can we pull the computer in so we can run we want to put some people through this. Now, this would tie in real nicely with, let's say, if you're doing any kind of special handling on people, like for, might be interesting to use this type of output for misunderstood word, misunderstood situation, subject confusion remedies to find bullies on it. In other words, like, for instance, suppose we do a modality sort and Ed comes up with subject confusion remedy. Well, what's the remedy? You got to sit them down and you say, tell me some subjects that are confusing to you. And he says, geometry, physics, SAF, blah, blah, you know. We used to do this with sound. This is how we used to run our sound programs. We used to put a microphone on the person, and we would have them do a list. And they would say, hello subject, you know, pop, 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 and they would say them all. And it was an interesting thing. I had several people that were doing, like, see if they wanted to go into SAF, and incredibly, SAF always came up with a charge on it. I don't know what it was. It's a little lever in the back of them. No, but it was true. For some reason, SAF always had the charge on, like, we used to do lists on job careers, you know. And they would say, you know, like, go into the ministry, be a scientist and all that, and acupuncture, and SAF really had the charge on it. For some odd reason. I haven't figured out what it was yet, but that was voice analysis. We could do this by listing out, taking a person's blood, running through the computer, and taking the first up sequence, and whatever that comes out on the energy grid. Who doesn't know about the energy grid? You haven't seen that, right? Have you seen an energy grid? Okay. That's a new innovation that we use to pick out the hot subject, the thing that you want to work on, that's going to give you the results. See, the problem you have with a lot of people is, I'd say 99% of case failures is you're running the wrong thing. That's the case failure. And case failures always are, well, I took this stuff and nothing happened, you know. Now, I'll give you a piece of information, and it'll probably be one of the best pieces of information you ever heard, and it's simple stuff, but people don't really understand that if you get a case and they're here, okay, let's say they've got a certain amount of charge. And what's charge, Ed?
Right.
But what is it, though? What?
Loss.
No, I know, but what is it? What?
Symptoms.
It's symptoms, right? They're sitting here with a certain set of symptoms, right? Okay. Now, if they go south on you and they start charging up, what happens?
You gotta stop it. You gotta antidote, or you gotta.
You got more symptoms, right? You've got more symptoms. But when they're charging, you have to detox them. Okay? Which means, to detox them means simply this. You stop the program, and you change. What you do is you stop the program, and then you take certain modalities that are useful in discharging or taking poison masses out of the body, like niacin and calcium, magnesium, sauna baths, anything that you use to dump poison out. Colonics, running. You follow what I'm saying? That's a detox. Don't get this confused, because you're going to screw the whole program up every time. This is like a very rudimentary idea in this programming. And if you don't follow it, then you're not going to understand anything. Okay, now if you go this way, what should happen?
You blow it off the.
Okay, well, what happens to the symptoms?
Disappear.
They feel better, right? Okay, now, sometimes you discharge too fast, and they get symptoms are coming not from this, but they're getting symptoms of the tempo of the program. Allegro con molto. It's just too fast. So tempo is causing the symptoms. The program's over. You blew them out, and they're just taking the stuff so fast, and the remedy is now causing the symptoms. So you got to watch the tempo. So how do you control tempo, do you know? You antidote. Now, antidote, if you look at the word, anti means against dose. In other words, you put brakes on. You dampen the dose. You slow it down. And this is a fine art. There's no doubt about it. You can make or break the case with your antidote process. And this antidote process you're going to use 80% to 90% of the time. So this is where your real art comes in. Your dose and your against dose. Here, when you put in a dose, it's sort of like this. you slam your foot down on the accelerator. Okay? Now most people, the reason why the programs fail is because all they have is an accelerator. And they just they go, bam, into the wall. That's it. Oh, what happened? You know. That's how they run the program.
When they do an intravenous, if they would give the intravenous all at once in a shot, the body would go into shock.
Right.
So they drip it slowly.
Well, see, now you got the idea. But still, there's no, that is the application. That's part of tempo. But what they would have is, they should have the antidote in the bottle in solution with it, so it's all set up just right, okay? So that it's dampened to the right point, so you got the exact speed. If you're really, really good at this, you can do it at, like, say, 43.619 miles per hour. Like, you're that good, where you can...
Infrared you can.
Yeah, but you still have to know your antidote procedures, like which dotes go against the predote. You know, in other words, you have a dote here, a dose, and the antidote is the thing that is the brakes where you're just sort of like coasting in now. You're going to try, it's like landing an airplane, right? I mean, you're playing it against the wind, you're crabbing a little bit, you know, you're watching the runway, and you got three things you're worried about, right? You got your pitch, you got the aileron action and the yaw, right? And you're trying to, you know, like that. And that's what you're doing with this stuff. And now, how do you know how to control tempo? It's their symptoms, right? So obviously, if they never talk to you again, you had it. I mean, how are you going to antidote them if they never tell you what's going on? Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Here's a guy here, comes in here, and they come in with a headache. Headache and nausea. And a backache, too.
How about ringing in the ears?
And they got ringing in the ears, too. Okay, so there's a couple things that can happen, all right? So here the guy starts over this bank, we run it, and the bully comes out to here. So here's where the charge is. So we run this out, core this out, and give him the stuff. Suddenly, the guy, how do we know he's charging up? The only way you know is by looking at the program. That's why you got the program, because we don't know he's charging up. Where you get confused, the first reason why you need SAF is the first primary confusion is you don't know whether he's getting symptoms from hyper speed, too much tempo, too fast, program too fast, or he's charging up. Now, charging up means that what's happened is that you're running the program and you're actually running into, to get rid of this, you have to get rid of other machines that are in the way. In other words, he actually has other symptoms that are in the way of getting to the answer of this. That's what the problem is. So you start giving him the doses here, and then these start kicking in. So it's confusing. You say, what the? So I'll give you an example. Guys get ringing in the ear. And suddenly his big toe is on fire. Oh! You know, he can't walk, and his knee locks up on him. So you're stuck because you don't know, is he detoxing, or is he charging up and needing a detox, or is he having a symptom from too much tempo on the program? In other words, did we handle the ringing in the ears? So how would you know just by, without, you'd use the program to follow the SAF.
SAF number.
You have to look up the numbers on the left side. The symptom control numbers tell you ringing in the ears was at 40. We ran the second program, and it's now 32.
Oh, then it's going down.
Yeah, it's charging. Okay, charging is going down. Well, what's another way of knowing?
Oh, he's complaining, he's
got-
feeling, you know,
Big toe, his legs killing him. What else? How would you know that without even using the program?
I mean, he's just looking bad. I mean, you just could see it.
Oh, he's looking bad, so what? I've seen people with fast tempo that's like distorted with speed, you know.
I mean,
The cheeks are all bent, you know. They're going like 6,000 miles an hour, you know, in standing still. And, you know, you can't tell. I don't see, he's not moving. His face is going, oh. How can you tell that he's charging? What's the easiest way to tell? He's got more symptoms and he still's got this. That's the best way to tell. Well, how's the ringing in the ears? Worse. Ringing in the ears is worse and he's got more symptoms. That's automatic. So what do? Detox. Stop the program. clean them out. Heavy sauna bed. And I just did this to myself. I took a formula, I ran up a formula for air pollution, auto exhausts, and especially airplane exhaust. I mean, I was like traveling in a kerosene. I was in back of an airplane. Well, you know, when you're going in line waiting to take off, the airplanes are blowing all the kerosene. The jet in front of you is warming up and it's blowing all, and those vents that you have where the air is coming in, that's the kerosene, you know. So we were riding along and we were going to park, and an L1011, one of those big ones, just started up. Usually when they're already on and they're flowing, the gases are burning better. But when it just starts up and you get the initial explosion, boom, it goes in there. And I swear to God, my mouth had oil in it. I mean, I was like, very good, peppermint, you know, very nice, you know. And I mean, it stunk. You know, I turned the nozzles up, the whole plane smelled. And then that very same trip, believe it or not, we were landing, and the back thrusters, all the stuff came into the cabin. And over the left, don't be alarmed of the smoke in the midsection of the airplane. We are not on fire. It's just the back thrusters. I said, that's great, but there's 6 people dead anyway, you know. Right? You know, it was just stank, like real bad. So I figured, well, okay, I got to get this stuff out. My symptoms, I didn't have any symptoms really. I just had, like, I was a little tired. I wanted more energy, and I was getting a little bit of a gut here, and I knew that was I was having indigestion, because the petroleum always affects the GI tract, especially the colon, lower GI tract, and the intestines, the small intestines. Yeah.
Did you say you have a remedy for that, homeopathic?
Yeah, well, I made up one. I made one myself. So I put a couple of things together, and I made this thing up, and I took it, and I put it in a tumbler of water, and I shook it up, like to the northeast, and I did a whole little ritual, you know. And I took it about 10 times, and I want to tell you, everything went bam, and even my earlobes were on fire. Everything was like sore. I couldn't move. I was like in trouble. I mean, I was like, oh, you know, everything was just foggy and hazy, and so I just realized I did not have, I mean, I had my original symptoms that I had were getting worse. So I went into a detox phase. So immediately I stopped taking the stuff. I mean, I'm not a nut. I'm going to keep doing it, keep piling it up. And you just keep piling it up, and you kill yourself, you know. So I stopped the thing, and then I went directly towards a detox program. And, you know, what I did was I actually did a modality sorting. And I sorted the modalities, and it said, oh, you silly dummy, you overran. This is what it said, you know, overran detox phenomenon. And then it said, take a walk first, and then do a steam bath, and it gave me all these directions, you know. And that's what I did. I just kept, it took about 4 steam baths and a couple of sauna baths, and, you know, just dumping off, you know. Then finally it came back. Plus I had an antidote on top of it. I used some antidotes for those particular remedies, and work like a charm. Then, how do you know that's the thing? I got the tumbler, took a couple more shots, they didn't have the same effect the second time.
Joe, okay, you go through that process. There's something, it's not just like a balancing phenomena. You've gained something. I mean, sometimes the idea is like when you detox or you've overrun the program, that, I mean, is there something gained in that process?
Yeah, well, the gain, there's never any gain mass or energy-wise other than just the quantitatively, you know, you just lose so much and gain so much, and that's all. But all of the recognition processes that you make, that's where what happens is when you take the poison out, see, the poison sits here like a wall, and you have your dichotomies sit apart, and that's your charge differential, like what does such and such have to do with such and such? In other words, like, these are where your connections are broken. These are your breaks. Poison makes the breaks. I mean, that's how poison works. You know, if you have, you want to kill somebody with arsenic,
In our Life Energy courses, you'll learn to decode the hidden messages of your symptoms, gain a deep understanding of holistic healing, and tap into your true potential. With SAF Online, you'll have access to cutting-edge tools and resources to guide your journey. Whether you're a healthcare professional, holistic healer, or someone seeking personal growth, SAF training is for you. Join our global community of seekers and transform your life. SAF training, where the journey to yourself begins. Don't miss out. Enroll now and embark on a life-changing adventure.
You know, you give it to them and it just seizes up their system so the circulation can't move around anymore and you can't get blood to the cells and you die. You know, I mean, you want to break any kind of flow of energy, you just put something in between it and disallow it from reaching. That's how all circuits work. You know, basically most circuits, you have something in between something else, and then when you want it to work, you pull up the bridge and let them connect. That's how a battery works, you know. Yeah, there's a gate, you know, and then you lift the gate up and the things interact, and then when you want them to stop, you put the gate down. That's all. And so poison acts like a gate on your system, so when you let it go, so what happens is you start making more and more of the connections that were broken, like why I behave the way I do, you know. Oh, no wonder I was feeling that way, you know, because of these connections. They're very, very personal connections. They're not anything that everybody gets. Oh yeah, well gee, I learned that every time we do this certain detox programs, you'll learn why trees grow, you know, or something. You know. Everybody gets a different, these poisons break people in different areas, you know, and prevent them from knowing different things. And you say, well, what's so great about knowing things?
So it's not a holding action on the program in a sense. I mean, it's not like that you have to go to that right. You know, obviously you like to have symptoms released from a person, but when they're going through a charging phase and then you do a proper detox, something's gained in that direction too.
Oh yeah, well sure, because what happens is you go back to center, and then you can start discharging, and you may get symptoms from the discharge. You know, it really depends. Your primary thing though is that you want to destroy the differential, which is when two things, now you guys weren't here so this makes it a little bit difficult because earlier we talked about differential and breaks, you know, like when there's a break, there's something that has become different than what it was before and now it's upset, see? And we gave the example of Fred and Mary being an item. You have a guy and his girlfriend. Okay, this is Fred and Mary. And they're in this bubble, see, together. And they're an item. So Fred and Mary there's no charge between those two. Unless they fight, but let's say they're having a happy day and everything, and Fred and Mary. Oh, I'd like you to meet my girlfriend, Mary. Oh, yeah. She's a lab technician. I'm a dentist, you know. Just like normal things back and forth, right? And you go, then suddenly Mary splits with Jim. Not Jim Macy, it's this other Jim. And now the bubble is closed around him. Mary's gone. And there's charge here. And this guy has symptoms and his heart hurts. That sounds kind of silly, but really this is what happens, believe it or not. It's really, life is pretty silly. It's real simple and silly. And so the reason why his heart hurts is because there's what's called differential. Something is different than what it was before. So he sits there with, before, you know, Fred loves Mary. Okay, and that was okay, but now something happened. Okay, so we use that as a happening, you know. Something changed, okay, and now And the charge is represented, as we said, in other words, there's an entity there. There was no, the entity was always there, but now the entity is still there, only it's opposite polarity. There's no mass on Mary. There's a negative Mary there. You don't see it because it's a negative Mary. It's a different phase of energy, but it's still there, and the guy has it still there. So when we run the program, we pick up the differential on the program and we say these two things connect. So he has to close the differential. And the only way he can close the differential is to spot the happening and actually to take the charge off the happening. What's the happening? Do you know? In the Fred and Mary incident?
Separation.
Yeah, all right, well, yeah, but that was a consequence. What was the thing that really did it? What's the because? She ran away with Jim. All you got to do is say Jim, and that's a button on this. All you got to do is say, hey, did you see Jim? And then, Jim? You mean the Jim that took my Mary? Oh, Jim the janitor. I just wanted to borrow a screwdriver. Yeah. He went that way. Anytime you get an upset like that, you accidentally trip circuit it, a happening. That's all. Ed demonstrated that this morning. Accidental fire. You know, you just run past. You made and broke contact with a trigger point. That's all. And then he thunk you meant something else, so his bank shifted to that locus and start running on it. And then it didn't match, and then so if the only way we healed it, I don't know if we healed it or not, but the only way I heal is try to make him understand that he's got the wrong, we're in the wrong file, like we're talking two different things. So if his mind, if he goes back to where he says, well, I understand why I was upset and where I made my... So the idea to rectify something is to get the guy to see what the difference is. You follow what I'm saying? I mean, if a person can see what the difference is, he doesn't get upset. So if he says, differential, that's what it's all about. So if, let's say, the next woman comes in, Carol comes in. Carol comes in and takes the place and sits over unmarried. So you have Carol with a Mary charge on her. So Carol says, I think I'm going to go to the store. The store. That's where Mary went. To meet Jim. Now Jim's going to take Carol. Ah. I mean, of course, I'm over-dramatizing it, but, you know, these voices play in the head, you know. It's like screaming in because the bank is a protective mechanism. It's saying, so why is it yelling at him? Why was it yelling at him? And why would it even care? Why should he care? Because Carol has all his money. He gave Carol his paycheck, right? And bought her a car, and, you know, his whole life is socked into this new one now. And he figures, well, gee, she splits, I'll have nothing. Not only will I not have some nice big woman, of course Carol weighs 400 pounds too, you know, adds a little bit of mass to the situation. It's not as bad losing like a 100-pound woman. 400-pounder. Where the hell are you going to find another one like that? There's only 6 in the whole county, and 5 of them are taken. This is the last one. It took me a year to get her that big, you know. You know, you actually think you had something to do with making them look the way they do, you know. I trained this one, you know, I don't want to lose this one now. And so that's the scare, you know, like you say, oh, I don't want to lose another one. So the mind is constantly scanning for potential loss factors again, you know, to protect you, to say, you better watch out, you know, something's going to happen. So you try to avoid sequences which will lead up to the same conclusion, right? Sounds only logical, doesn't it? It's just a logical protect mechanism. So basically, how do you heal something like that? Obviously, it's not by putting another person over the top of unmarried, right? That doesn't work. Has anybody ever healed a circumstance by filling in with another person? Well, kinda, you know, it sort of masks it a little. It's almost like taking a drug, right? Yeah, I got a pain, here's an aspirin. Yeah, I feel better, yeah. Do you really? It just sort of comes and goes now, you know, so the guy's still got the same problem, but at night when he rolls over and he notices this huge woman next to him, he feels better, you know. Well, at least she's asleep. I know she's not going anywhere. Let me slug her, make her unconscious, and I know she won't leave. So, you know, you have that potential problem all the time, and that's what scares people. But how do you heal the thing that he never got over the Mary thing, and that scares him, you know, a whole lot? How do you fix that one?
Talk about it. Bring it out.
So you talk about it. Okay. Well, it's obvious that something went wrong, okay? And the thing that's scaring this guy is that he's still sitting there saying, I don't know what went wrong. So Mary split because Jim took her away. Well, that's simple preservation mechanism. He wants to know why he lost so he doesn't have to go through the same trauma again. So he could detect it and fix it before it happens, just for prevention, you know, to say, well, okay, well, is it because I have a hair lip or something, you know? I mean, maybe I can grow a mustache, or, you know, come up with some kind of, like, and that's what happens with people. Do you ever notice that? That something splits off and the person starts changing themselves, you know, trying to, well, oh, it's the way I dress or something. Oh, I'll try that one. Oh, it's this, you know, it's because I don't pick up my underwear off the floor, you know. Or something. You know, you go through a whole bunch of things trying to figure out what's the reason, okay? So do you think it would heal? Do you think the situation with this charge on Mary would heal if this person could come up with all the answers as to why she blew?
Well, partially because if he relieves if he discharges and reconnect over there, he can handle it on the other end. He's going...
Well, do you think if he gets all the reasons why she left, it would go away? Unmarried would go away?
No.
It's still not going to go away. His biggest trouble is that he's got an unmarried sitting here. He's got a negative chart. In other words, he's missing a person, and the person's not there. He wants the person. So his main effort to really fix this kind of person, the main effort is to get them to come to grips with how to have Mary in a positive sense. In other words, not dwelling on the missing. Remember we were talking about earlier about how somebody dwells on the fact that there's supposed to be somebody there and they're not there? That puts a negative charge there, right?
Well, would you say you change the attitude then?
Well, you change the attitude, but the point is, whatever it takes to change it, Mary's got to be there as Mary in a positive sense, wherever she is. So when somebody says, where's Mary? They say, oh, she lives in Florida now, very happy, has a couple of kids, you know. That's where Mary is. In other words, he has dislocated. Did you ever see on the program where it says loss of location?
Yeah.
It's a thing called elsewhereness, being elsewhere. In other words, you haven't really spotted where the person is. You ever see when somebody says, well, you don't know where I am on this subject. You think I'm over here when I'm over there. Like Ray elsewhere. Ray, he's real tired and wiped out because he's elsewhere. He's lost location, and his numbers always come up, what, Larry? 1320. He's saying to us, I'm elsewhere. I'm not here in your face. When I'm here in your face, all my energy and charge right here, and I like that. But he's still someplace else. He's probably still in Madison Square Garden on the mat. So that's not all of him that you see there. You know, he comes. You know, of course, sometimes he comes here and sometimes he goes back. You know, why? He's still trying to figure out how he got there. But the point is to come to grips with the action of converting, looking at the missingness versus looking at the something. Like coming to grips with what is actually there.
But of course, a special drag on the program, though, in this particular case, is the fact that he's got this 400-pound compensation.
Right. Well, now you're getting down to the real, you know, you're going to go through a lot of programming just trying to get past that part. All of his remedies. 90% of your program is getting around the remedies the guy's using, which is on that chart that says unconsciousness, shock, and trauma, him trying to shock and traumatize himself into thinking that he doesn't have these problems. And how does he do that? Rudy, read the last one down at the bottom. It says right at the last, up the top, there's 4 things, and it says...
In our Life Energy courses, you'll learn to decode the hidden messages of your symptoms, gain a deep understanding of holistic healing, and tap into your true potential. With SAF Online, you'll have access to cutting-edge tools and resources to guide your journey. Whether you're a healthcare professional, holistic healer, or someone seeking personal growth, SAF training is for you. Join our global community of seekers and transform your life. SAF training, where the journey to yourself begins. Don't miss out. Enroll now and embark on a life-changing adventure.
Yeah, right at the top, all the way up top, all the way up top. Right there, no, over a little bit more. Up, 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 up. Long line, right there. What does that say?
Slight trauma, addicted to drugs, alcohol, and cigarette smoke.
Addictions. I don't need any sex. You know, I've got popsicles. You know. The guy, you know, you see a guy going through 400 popsicles a day. Yeah. Popsicles are a drug against blah, blah. You should see this all the time. Food, allergies, all that stuff. That's why allergies way up there. Mechanisms that are used against the problem. Real interesting stuff.
So that you actually, when you see the symptom that he finally comes in, which is his major complaint, it's actually the addiction that he's built up to wipe out a case that he's been dealing with.
You're going to go through maybe 30 chains on just social chains. Stuff they cough up just to get, hey, you want to try this one? Here we go. And they never give you the real one. The real one's buried. You're hitting drug stuff, drug phenomenon, ghosts, hallucinations. Like, you know, if you come in and just go, bam, right to the right thing. I mean, you know, first of all, what would happen is, like Tim was saying, you got 400-pound Carol sitting there that is going to, she doesn't want him to resolve Mary. He's my man now. You know, she's actually preventing the program. If he ever came back and said, hey, guess what, we're running the program on Mary, you know, my ex-wife, the real voluptuous one, you know, the thin one. What? She'll try everything, and she'll pour his drops down the drain, and, you know, she'll start trying to sabotage. Her insecurities will try to sabotage him. So you got a lot of little problems, you know, that you have to deal with. There's no doubt about it, and that's, if you want to get a program done right, you have to face the fact this is the stuff you're going to run into. And people, it's unbelievable. People want to get cured. I want to get cured right now. I mean, they've got no right to say any of that. Because they've been doing this stuff for years and years and years and building all this stuff up. And the thing is they're just not really, they don't understand it, not trained in it. And they certainly aren't taking responsibility for it because they don't understand what it is. So if you make it your business to train this in. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the training courses and stuff. I mean, I want everybody to train and learn about this stuff. It's silly to keep it from them because, you know what's going to happen? They're just going to make your programs take longer and longer and longer, and they'll be back with the same problems over and over again because you're not really cutting into the bottom and making that fantastic change in personality. And believe me, if you do that, do 5 or 10 people like that and really core out their case, yeah, they'll be friends with you forever. I mean, you'll have them they'll bring 100 people in for you. They'll turn them into somebody really viable because you're going to take away, this kind of a stuff sets up a magnetic barrier that stops them from behaving the way they really want to behave. That's a break and a half, let me tell you. That's broken their energy down. Now they're like running on a 1/50th of their power. You see? If you fix these things, all that power comes back. They're like incensed people. You know, they have all this energy. Now, we have the most sophisticated ways of getting at this data through all of our little techniques, the microscope, the infrared. I mean, by using these different tracks of energy, you could cut into this problem and get down to the basics of it by going in through that chart, that flow chart, that mechanism in there. It'll give you the area to make the link up so that you can get to this kind of information. And once you get to this kind of information, there's a variety of things you can do, but I can give you the formats on how you can discharge this and really like take it away, you see. And that's, you know, that's what I've been holding off on because I haven't seen, you know, anybody really, I haven't really felt real comfortable about, you know, going in there and start messing around with these proof banks here because you could really screw somebody up. I'm not kidding you. I mean, you could turn them into putty without any trouble. Because if you get this thing, let's say she's got this thing sort of in a cocoon, you know, but if you get this thing, crack it open and then fire it on them, leave them there sitting with it, you know. You know, this thing could like attack one of his systems or something, you know. So, and that's not so bad. It's just that a lot of it comes out in very bizarre circumstances that you may not even relate to this. They have accidents or, you know, crazy things start happening to them. So, I mean, and none of us are safe from that. Believe me, you know. It's yours truly got in a big accident after the last seminar we had, and you know, but luckily I had the program and I cored it out and I fixed it, or I would have been off and running for a bizarre, you know, string of events that would have lasted for who knows how long. But that's what happens to people. They get one bad thing happens to them after another. It just keeps happening. Okie dokie. Anybody any questions? Did you want to give these out to these people? Or? No lunch. Are you kidding? We don't eat lunch around here. We're all he-men. We all used to weigh 400 pounds. Is it 12:30 already?
Yeah.
Holy sh!
Would you say that we become escapists when we have a charge like that, when we're trying to find a way out?
No, it's just a natural phenomenon. It's not escapism. What it is that the...
With the addiction, I mean.
This thing, see, these things set up because of a gross amount of positivity. It's a balance. In other words, this couldn't have existed unless the person had a great, intense feeling for the woman in the first place. You see? That's what happens. It vacillates to the other side, and people get confused by that. See, somebody tells them, you must have love. You must love people with tremendous love, you know, and you're sitting in your love, and you have sex with them, and you go crazy, right? And then they run away. And you have everything that way. So you get the opposite experience. You know, love and hate. If we were taught more to be more judicial with our feelings, then we wouldn't have the kind of repercussions. You know, we have a society that's hell-bent to have romantic experiences every twist and turn of the way without having enough control over the situation to handle it, right? Well, it's the knight in shining armor syndrome, and we're going to start now. Let's go over we'll try to catch everybody up. We'll do a little refresher, and then we'll go right into it. We're going to start making some chains today on the microscope, and I'm going to show you the 3D aspects of the microscope, and we're going to run the chains through. Of course, we're going to have lots of volunteers, right? People that want to get that picture there analyzed through that machine there, okay?
In front of everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Well, if you're embarrassed about getting your case read in front of anybody, let me know, and we won't do it, because I understand.
One volunteers? Yeah.
Yeah. What I want to do is I want to take, what do we got, 2:30?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to take to about maybe 15 minutes and just recap this morning to pick up with some new people here, and I think a good refresher would be important. So you understand more about what the program is. The overall aims of the program, okay, are basically for you to understand the exact energy mechanism to rid the person of the problem forever. Now, we have, that's a pretty high purpose and a high goal, and people are going to want to attack you on the subject, so you really got to know your stuff. You got to be able to explain exactly how it is that you can get rid of an idea or a program in a person's genetic makeup forever. That's the bottom line. I mean, that's the main purpose of what you want to do. I mean, let's face it, we already went over this 100 times. The point is, you don't just want to palliate something, or use a palliative means something that you use just to temporarily put a patch on, okay? Now, there was a lady I had come in here about a week ago. What was it? When did Penny come in here? About 10 days ago? Something like that. And this lady was, I'll tell you frankly, I mean, she's just a mess, completely. And she was doing like what most of you guys do, and it's not your fault, it's just because, you get excited, people push your buttons. I mean, let's face it. You get a flyer in the mail and it says, "We've learned the secrets of crystals, come and see the program." And you come in, and the next thing you know, you bought into this crystal program, and now you're eating them, And before you know it, the thing's running a program on you, And you start mixing these things, start doing the scramble science, and start mixing everything together. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. I'm just saying, if you're going to do that, at least have a good escape routine, so you know how to get out of it, okay? If you're going to play with your body and play with the machines inside, at least know how to fix them. So I had this lady who's a friend of mine, and she was one of the first people that got into the program. She was doing real well with the program, and then she just kind of went off on a tangent a little bit, and bingo, I talked to her on the phone, and you hear, it was like real far away, like I was talking to Alaska. She's only about 4 blocks away. Hey, Penny, how you doing? I said, "Oh, jeez, what happened?" "Oh, well, she tried to explain what happened. She didn't know what happened, so I had her go back in time and just say, "Now, when did this start happening?" This and that. And here she went to a rebirthing program, okay? So what happens is you get a guru who comes up with a real neat idea and then sells it to 5 or 6 other people, and then they start to distribute the idea, and the point is you're supposed to go through this process. And a lot of it is really sound, makes a whole lot of sense, only they don't know any of the escape routines, they don't know any of the patch routines, how to fix it, how to repair it. They just know this much of it, and the subject's got this much, okay? So they just put her through this thing, and the reason why she was talking like this, she was so far away, was because she was stuck in some past incident long ago about, she was doing rebirthing, so she was probably stuck in her womb somewhere, That's what it sounded like. It sounded like she was talking from the womb, I should have, tell me the womb where you are, and I'll look up and, "Hi, how you doing, man?" "Oh, let me out of here, And so it's just like drugs, drugs are the ultimate trap, the beautiful dream fades away when you get the kickback and the withdrawal, When the drug comes for payment, it's just like the drug man. I mean, the drug man who sells the drug is the drug henchman, He says, "Okay, now I want my money." It's going to cost you $300 this time. That's $500. That's $1,000. That's $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $100,000. You know, it just keeps going up. And the guy gets uglier and uglier each time he wants to collect. And you got to go out and do weird things like rape, pillage, plunder to pay this jerk off for this imaginary pleasure. And it's the same thing with programs. So the bottom line is, when I started out in this program, my main purpose was I just wanted to get to the bottom of it, whatever it was. No, no matter how much it hurt or how much trouble it was, I wanted to find out exactly what the bottom was. Now, earlier, we were talking about the fact that what really causes the symptoms on a person is the idea, the illusion that they have a disconnection or a break, okay? Something has broken, okay? Now, a real good example of this is getting together two teams of people and having them play a sport within a known boundary, having them war against each other with all of the emotion and the intensity, and involving lots of other people like their parents and friends and family and their schoolmates and everything. And then at the end of all this, okay, looking at the two teams, the winner and the loser. The winners are they're wholesome, they're laughing, they're on top of it, they're bubbly. The losers are shot. They have symptoms, they have grief. Ever seen giant people? Ever seen 290-pound, 6'8" people crying, into a towel? It's not like a little tear, it's like huge emotional relief. And you say, oh, my goodness, this is incredible. How could you bring a giant person to his knees, And the thing is, you've got to set the illusion into motion with a lot of significance. A lot of people have to agree to this illusion, And we were talking earlier about the illusion of being connected to another person. And that is put together with a lot of fanfare, like getting married, having a church with 500 people are there and a big reception. Everybody gets drunk and wishes you a happy life 6,000 times, over and over, and they put money in your purse and they give you articles, like weird, just, crystal picture frames, and strange things, you're looking at them, and then these are things that you anchor to, and that this is, that the things that have no more meaning if the other person splits, It's what's the meaning of this crystal picture frame, who are these people in this picture? We don't even know who these people are because the whole thing has been disconnected and discombobulated. Yeah?
What'd you do for Penny, Joe? How'd you bring her out of it?
Well, I just put a patch on her program. That's all. All you can do is patch somebody,
How'd you patch it?
Well, when you do a patch, it's real simple. Like what we were saying is what you do is you take a situation, a person has a break, when they're showing or presenting a symptom like that, like a failure, like this, Obviously, the first thing you think of is, well, let me try to make you better, and what's your situation is, well, you don't feel good. So you get a I don't feel good drug and give it to them, and it never works. Or it works temporarily as a drug. So what you have to do is sort that confusion. So you say, you run just a very simple patches are, tell me what's bothering you, run a list down, take a reading, and do an energy grid and pull out where the charge is coming from, where the real hot upset is, okay? And that's basically what we did. We did that, and we ran that down, and in fact, she was the lady that I had in I was watching on this screen. The stuff just, the blood cells disconnect, and it was really, really amazing. It was something I didn't expect would happen, but there it happened. So maybe it won't happen again. I don't know. But
Joe, when you found the charge on her, though, what do you recall what the charge was? When you
yeah, but the charge, you got to remember, the charge is always, when you have a charge like that, when somebody's presenting a symptom and there's charge on it, okay, the only reason why it exists is because there's a differential of understanding, like something's disconnected, something's being forced apart and causing a misunderstanding. And most of her misunderstanding, I don't want to talk about her case behind her back because she's not here, but it's like anybody's case. If they have something that they should be doing that's not being, of course, the major complaint I pull out of the list that she runs. She tells me 10 things that she thinks might be it, and I get the charge, and the charge directly relates to it and says, okay, here's what it is. It says, bingo, I don't like being pushed around by other people, whatever it is. We talked about something like this earlier. You know, this brings to mind the Dirty Dozen, where Clint Walker, who's this big guy, he's about 6'6", 275 pounds, and they were asking all the Dirty Dozen people how they got into the mess of, you know, they were going to be killed and now they were on the suicide mission, and he says, I don't like being pushed. This big guy, you don't like being pushed, that's okay, you know. And then he says, well, I don't like being pushed, and the guy says, what do you mean? Well, how did you get into this situation? He says, this guy was pushing me. That's the answer. I don't like being pushed. This guy was pushing me, okay? So it's all sitting right on this side, you know? Obviously, if somebody comes up with charge and they say, I don't like being pushed, then there's got to be an incident there, right? You say, well, what gives you that idea? Well, some guy pushed me, and I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of it, okay? But on the other side of all that is what we call the core over here, see? And this is negative in here, and this is positive. In other words, that's the thing that they give you. They say, here it is. I don't like being pushed, sucker. Okay, but the negative part is that on this side of it, something happened, something's missing. In other words, there's a big hole somewhere. The missing piece of information. Well, what happened? You know, why don't you like being pushed? Well, somebody pushed you. Obviously somebody pushed you, but there's more to it than that. He equates being pushed with something else. You follow what I'm saying? There's another incident somewhere that he's equating being pushed. I'll give you an example. We might run that little core out to upsets of pregnancy. And says, shit, wait a second. We run this out, we core this out, and then we find, here's the connection. Obviously, nobody likes being pushed, but this guy's got charge on being pushed. It's sitting there in your face. This guy don't like being pushed. The core comes up, pop, 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 here's the charge. Pregnancy, what's that mean? Tell me things. How does being pushed relate to pregnancy? Uh-oh, bingo, bingo. When I was, my mother couldn't give birth to me. I was too big. I was 6'2" at birth, you know. Clint Walker, you know, trying to push me down the canal, and I couldn't get out. All the answers start coming out down the line. Oh yeah, a lot of them. This is what confuses people on this side. This side, when somebody says, I don't like being pushed, and they say, and you say, why? And they come up with a glib answer like, oh, I'll tell you why. Because so-and-so pushed me, and I had to beat him up. Do you feel better? No. In fact, I feel like beating somebody else up. And you say, well, what the heck is it? How do we fix the case? The point is that thing over there, that chart, on that chart's the answer to this. That's why it confuses you. So you say, I don't like being pushed. The guy says, yeah, somebody pushed me. And you say, oh, hey, we fixed it. It's all settled. No, it isn't. This is the answer over here. You have to core it out, and then the answer comes up. And believe me, there's periods where you say, I don't know, I hope she forgives me, but I ran part of her case down, but I'll tell you, it was real interesting what we did with her. I'll tell you, it was fantastic. And the stuff that came out in the first, when we got her data and brought it all across here, it didn't make a bit of sense. I'll tell you right now. It made no sense at all. So I got this. Now, let's say we get something on this end and it makes no sense. You have recourse. Let's say we get, I'll tell you what, we'll all have a little, I'm sure she doesn't mind, but let me give you an example of what happened. We had something, her core or major complaint came out something similar to this. I don't like being pushed around, and came out, abnormal redness. This was the core to it. So she goes, boing, like, what the? Right, your immediate thought is, it didn't work. You know, that's a dud, you know. It does, you know, it doesn't make any sense. I don't even push that. So, wait a second, we have recourse. There's two recourses you can go to automatically. One, you could put homeopathics in and try to get this thing here, which is got some kind of these two things, being pushed and abnormal redness, have an incident bank, what you call a proof bank, where there's, in other words, actual things have happened where those two things were involved, and if we use enough homeopathics, it'll squirt out. But that's real. It's hard to do it that way because you don't know if you ever really got it, because she might be out someplace in shopping in a mall or something and it finally hits her, but nobody's there to pick it up, you know what I mean? So it gets lost, you know, we never really do it. So what I do instead is I run control process 101, CP 101, which is a statement that says, okay, what I want you to do, you look right in the face and say, how does don't like being pushed relate to abnormal redness? And she says, Jesus, I don't know. And then suddenly she says, wait a minute, I get angry. You know, I get, oh, hey, okay. So we run that. So I go, papa, 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 run it all the way down. I say, give me a time when you did that. Give me another time, earlier, earlier, earlier. Just keep picking up times. This is a proof bank where she proves that this could be so. Yeah, so-and-so was pushing me around, I got mad, my face got red. Hey, that's it. Makes a whole lot of sense. Still not the answer, right? Believe it or not, we went through this whole thing. I even went into this too, gave her homeopathics like every 5 minutes, bang, 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 bang. And then suddenly she comes up, I'm watching her because I know my program, and she says, do you think this might have anything to do with it? Last year I went out in the sun and I got sunstroke and almost died. Does that have anything to do with it? I says, well, is that abnormal redness? She says, yeah, you know, and like now you're seeing where there was absolutely no correlation in the beginning, but by the end, the whole bank was scraped down and we really started to get down to nitty gritty. But again, that's something like just throwing a patch on it. As I looked at the thing, I saw, you know, we needed about 75 to 80 hours of work to pull out all the little parts and, you know, to do like, you know, somebody gets in there and just gets everything charged up and broken in half, you're going to work on it. You know, you got to dig them out, you know.
Joe, was that abnormal redness, was that in the core of the chain that you used to filter the case, or was that
Yeah.
the first place in the energy grid that said there's sort of charges?
No, that's the core.